Okay. Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Ayurvedic Therapist. I'm honored today to be joined by someone I deeply respect and admire. She's my sister and colleague, Amelia. Amelia is a brilliant therapist who holds such powerful presence in her clinical work. And she's also someone who had the courage to step into the ceremonial earth medicine space, not just for herself, but as a way to more deeply serve her clients at home. So today we're weaving a rich conversation around the question, how do we bring earth medicines that have been used and um, have been kept as sacred medicine in ceremonies for millennials, this ancient wisdom back into the therapeutic space
Mhm.
without, extracting or dulling anything out of its soul. And so it's a big topic, but I'm really excited. Amelia, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about this because you have so much experience by yourself, inside
Uh-huh.
yourself and your own work, and
Mhm.
with your clients. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Paris, and thank you for inviting me into your space to bring more discussion to this very important topic, one that is getting a lot of traction now in the Western medicine world. And I'm hoping that it will be done with reverence for the medicine. So
Yes.
that's my biggest piece to definitely start with. Um, and it doesn't become monetized because that's not okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. And so for
Hmm.
our audience, those people who may not know that this
Hmm.
medicine is kind of like emerging in the therapeutic space so
Mm.
rapidly.
Yes.
We're in it. And, I've done trainings in the Western and Eastern parts of things, but a lot of
Yeah.
people maybe have heard something or have read blogs. But can you tell us a little bit more about what is happening and how is that emerging into the therapeutic space?
Yeah. So it's been here in Canada anyway. I had been looking into becoming trained so that I have a certification to know that I am ethically providing this medicine, but also to make sure that in the Western world, as a social worker, we're not working outside of our scope of practice, because that can then become problematic with the colleges that we belong to. And so for me, it was very important to make sure that that was done and finding a company that was doing it for us up here. Um, and then in learning the company, it was about finding one that was grassroots and looking for something that was also going to do it from the view of medicine and not from the view of government. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, it makes
Okay.
a lot of sense. I mean, for me, the
Hmm.
roots of it are so important. But
Hmm.
as this medicine makes its way, and when we say medicine, I just want to clarify
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I think me and you both work a lot with psilocybin,
Yeah.
um, and there has been so much research done now on psilocybin and its effects in mental health.
Mhm.
Yeah, working with psilocybin and other earth plant medicines in the
Mhm.
therapeutic space. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, there's been a huge surge in realizing
Yeah.
and recognizing how these ancient medicines can be
Mm.
helpful and
Mhm. Yeah.
how much faster they can help individuals go through their therapeutic process and
Mhm.
digest information or um, pain or whatever they may be going through.
Mhm.
And for me, it was, the therapeutic space holding of it is everything because, or ceremonial space holding of it is everything because, yes, you may have experimented with these um, plants and maybe you've had some experiences, but I think the biggest thing that I see is people just arriving in the space that is held safe and in the
Hmm.
container of the ceremony or the therapeutic practice. And all of a sudden, for it to be completely different and the medicine showing them something completely different. So, what I want to start with is like this what we do as therapists or medicine workers is
Hmm.
just setting up that space and holding the container of safety and a completely different experience emerging from that. And so with
Hmm.
that, I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit of your own experience and that, you know, you're so established in your Western clinical work,
Hmm.
and then just coming to these ancient traditions and practices. How did that happen for you? Tell us a little bit about your own journey.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So it actually began with ayahuasca, which is also an ancient medicine. And so my first introduction professionally, because I mean, as a youth, like youth being in my 20s, cannabis was, present. And as was a couple of times MDMA, but not in a therapeutic way, right? It was good, but it was good that way, but not the same. And I want to be really clear on what that means by not the same, because this done in a ceremony is with a lot of intention, intention to go into a deep place that has been blocked for whatever reasons, and you're opening yourself up to what is needed to be seen, not always what you want to be seen, which is also important. The medicine knows, and so again, that reverence of knowing that that is what the medicine is going to show you. So when you do it in a ceremonial way, it's done with a setting and source. So the guidance of like, where are you going to be doing this? What's calling you to this place? What's calling you to the facilitator or the shaman? That kind of thing. And then the space that is being held in. So the safety of that space. Safety is extremely important in what I do, and making sure that the person feels called. So never is it a forced upon anyone. A person has to be called to it. So for me, when I was called to ayahuasca, it was during a time of some very significant transition, and workplace harassment that I was enduring and needing to know how to get out of it, work through it, what was my next steps, kind of thing. So that really helped guide me into where I was going with my career, and knowing that I needed to step away from the systems that were I was working under, and to bring myself into my own space. That it was time that I was able to do this and guide myself into that space. And so that was why I went to ayahuasca initially. Um, and then from there, I started because I'm definitely not a shaman, so I cannot give ceremony of ayahuasca. But I started to really realize that the psychedelic space was much more vast. In fact, cannabis can be used in a really beautiful ceremonial way as well. It doesn't just have to be recreational. And then obviously psilocybin, which is the most known. I mean, I also don't do LSD ceremonies, nor do I do MDMA ceremonies. But I do know MDMA ceremonies are available. And Therasol does have a program for that. I was more connected to psilocybin, to the mushrooms, based on my experience. So I just had a few enlightening moments through my colleague here in Canada. She led me through the first couple ceremonies, and through that, I learned a lot more about myself. I did a lot more um, attached thoughts I was having, belief systems I was holding on to. And in the ceremony, it was about knowing I have a larger area around me to look beyond my boundaries, I guess is really what the message was. Um, Being in that ceremony, it was like I could see beyond my peripheral, which, were like that's not actually possible. So in ceremony, it is. And I think what's beautiful about that is like the lesson that you take from that and then integrate that into your daily life is knowing that there aren't really limits, that we are putting those limits on ourselves. And so there's a vastness out there to be explored. So that was one of my very first introductions. And it was well, as you can hear me speak of it, it was very rooted. And I was like, okay, like this means so much inside of me and to me psychologically that I can't imagine other people not also getting benefit from this. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so profound.
It
And I
was
love that, yeah, you're sharing with us your first experience, or one of the first
one of
is
the first, yeah.
usually, yeah, it's like so eye-opening and mind-blowing. And I know for me, when I first sat, um, it was just a couple of years ago, and just I couldn't believe that no one told me about this, because I have been trying to work
Yeah, that's true.
on my traumas, and like 20 years of doing work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so happy that
Yeah.
I have that gone through that process and did that for myself, whether it's through
Mm-hmm.
yoga and breath work and the Ayurvedic medicine stuff. And all of that has really been such a big part of my journey to support me to get to that point of time. But when I
Mm-hmm.
sat, it was exactly what you just said. I started seeing beyond what I thought was even possible, and it
Mm-hmm.
just cracked me open. And I felt like all that I have ever learned, and all the knowledge, and all the books I read, and all the teachers I had, and all the gurus, and all of that just fell into my being. And, just seeing that the world is actually not what we sometimes really put it in a box as,
Mm-hmm.
my entire perspective changed to the
Yeah.
entire world. And
Yeah.
I look at everything differently now, everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's such a profound experience. And for me
Mm-hmm.
too, I was like, oh my God, my clients need to do this. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to experience how profound this is, like all the work that we do, the somatic work and all of that. It's really beautiful. And
Yeah.
we'll get to that point where we talk about integration, that integration being everything. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
these plants just have this knowledge. And
Yeah.
I mean, psilocybin's like, uh, this deep rooted, so ancient plant that
Yeah.
seems to have all the memory and all the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and all the answers rooted into
Mm-hmm.
the ground. And somehow it connects us to these, whether it's through our neural pathways, or I don't know how it does it, but it just
Mm-hmm.
connects us to the universe. And
Yeah.
whether we receive new information, or we see something that we couldn't see into our
Mm-hmm.
blind spots before, um,
Mm-hmm.
it just really is helpful too.
I
For
probably
sure.
won't do this any as much justice as it needs, but I think, when we talk about our body parts looking like different plants or different like earth type beings, then we could talk to the mushroom part about how they are like our nodes of our neurotransmitters, right? So those little connectors, and those are within our brain. So we do have that, right? It's all throughout our body, which is why it's not just a psychedelic for ceremony. You can also take non-psychedelic mushrooms and have it help heal other parts, right? So it's
Mhm.
this real beautiful fungi that end up getting into a much bigger role than I think we have any. Well, the average person. There are definitely no the real deep mushroom people, but I think it's just wonderful to know that there's this natural plant fungi that we have been given and are now able to access because it's becoming more apparent. And again, obviously, it was silenced for so many decades based on government that it's coming out again. And with our new way of looking at world, right, Earth, I think it's going to be a much more hopeful way to access and not have the same negativity that was spun on it back in the 70s. So that's really what I'm hoping for, because you're right. I believe that many of my clients would benefit from this. I already know some have, which was really exciting for me to watch their transformation just after one ceremony. Some would require probably another one, but not soon. Like it's like about a year and a half between for some of them. Some of them want to go a bit quicker, but I do again caution that, knowing how long the medicine can actually last in our body too. I think that's the other thing, right?
Mhm.
Is we got pharmaceuticals that are quick acting, right? Yeah, sure, that's great. They also will end up becoming kind of plateaued, right? A pharmaceutical medicine can become plateaued. So you're changing it up all the time. You're doing certain things. But the psilocybin can last upwards of 90 days actively working in the body, right? You don't have the psychedelic effects, but the body itself is still reaping the benefits of utilizing the medicine. So I think, again, we
Mm.
have to be really aware of how long, which is why we wait between ceremonies, right? The evidence is there that we have to give ourselves time between ceremonies to let the medicine do its job, do
Yeah,
its therapy.
absolutely. Yeah, it's so
Mm-hmm.
important that and that
Yeah.
was the part where it's like it's not just the medicine itself or the ceremony itself. It's what we do, how we get into it, the intentions we set, and then
Mm-hmm.
also how we integrate. So the and that
Yeah.
integration part takes weeks and months and sometimes years. I'm still integrating
Mm-hmm.
my first ceremony where I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a second, this happened, and my grandpa showed up and I cried on his shoulder for like an hour, what felt like the whole day. I was like crying on his shoulder. And then all of a sudden, another message comes to me about that. And
Mm-hmm.
so the integration part keeps going for a really long time
Yeah.
and honoring that and not, in the Western terms, taking something from another culture,
Yeah.
monetizing it, and
Yeah.
just going, okay, this works, okay, here you go, and then
Mm-hmm.
cutting all the other aspects off of it.
That's
And
right.
so I'm really hoping
Mm-hmm.
that that won't happen. However, I mean,
Yeah.
with my experience and what I have seen, it's very hard to hold that integrity together. So I'm really grateful
Mm-hmm.
for people like you who are actively
Mm-hmm.
educating yourself. You're trying it in your own body. It's has become, it has been weaved into the part of your own life. So the way
Yeah.
you bring that to others is very different than a therapist that, I'm kidding you not, the group that I was studying with,
Mm-hmm.
or just certification purposes, and they're
Mm-hmm.
certifying all types of therapists throughout US and Canada. And
Mm-hmm.
in our group, out of four people that were working together closely, uh, two of them had never taken any kind of medicine and did not have an intention to do so. And so for
Oh.
me, and I see that
Mm-hmm.
all the time too, where we
Mm-hmm.
get therapists coming and finally they're like, oh, I've been serving this for a year, so I want to see how it feels. It terrifies me. I'm like,
That's terrifying. That's yeah. No.
how could
No.
you how could
Mm-hmm.
you hand out this powerful
Mm-hmm.
medicine that you have no idea about? It doesn't matter how
Mm-hmm.
many books you read or how
Oh
much
no.
studying you do or how many
Yeah.
certifications you have.
Yeah.
If you
Or
haven't felt
podcasts you
this,
watch.
right,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing, and
Absolutely.
that is really terrifying to me.
Yes. And I think that speaks again back to, the individual seeking, right? We call them seekers. They need to do their homework. They need to ask the questions. And
Mhm.
if and I hope that one of their questions will always be, have you tried this? That needs to be like, I would say actually that needs to be like their first question. And if the answer is no, you got to find the one that says yes, because that person that says no really won't have a clue. And I'm not even joking, they will not have a clue what that person actually went through in that 6 hour, and mine with you was 8. Like I was down deep.
Yeah.
So like that's the longest I've ever been in medicine. And so, and it was also the most I've ever taken. So I don't know what was happening for me in Costa Rica, but like, that was like some serious medicine there. Where like my most dosage up here in Western medicine in London, Ontario, Canada was 4.5, right, of golden teacher. So like still, just close to that. I think was hero dose like upwards of 5 to 10. I think it's something like high like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it's still, even at the 4.5, it was a really great experiential journey that I had. Again, learning more about myself of, sometimes I'll say yes when I really mean no. And like, oh, wow, that just happened in medicine, like waking up that part of my mind to go, you do this. This is something you do. And I'm like, oh, damn, I do. So, those, again, those teachings, those little small moments of realizing, right, your programming is still there, and it's just bringing light to it to go, oh, I do that, yeah, and not judging it, just going, okay, awareness. Now, what do I do to change that? Because I need to start changing that. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
beautiful. It's like, and the medicine it has always been so kind to me. It shows me
Mm-hmm.
that those, hey, you're doing this, and here's your chance to do something different. And I go,
Yeah.
whoa, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't seen that. Like mainly
Right.
in relationships, or the way I show up for the girls or for my partner. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, like what a big blind spot. And very
Mm-hmm.
kindly, the medicine is able to show you these parts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and it is nice when it's kind to you. There can be people that have journeys that are
it's
like
true.
a little bit rougher, right? Or sadder. And I'm not saying that sad is bad. It's not. It's quite the release, actually. And I think that's another big piece, is knowing that if you're holding on to something, sometimes you don't know you're holding it until the medicine lets you release it, right? And so that's
Mhm.
also, a very powerful moment, when where me holding space for that person, the importance of knowing who's coming and who's seeking the medicine, knowing a little bit about their stories, knowing a little bit about their traumas that they've experienced and how they're holding it in their body, can help be released during ceremony, especially if they set their intentions to do such a thing, right? And then how to have that relationship change in that moment. So I think that was something else I learned as a sitter for people I've sat with is, for me, the importance of knowing the individuals who I'm sitting with, right, knowing their stories so that I can then help them if it's, a rougher trip and they're crying and they're asking to reach out, and the verbal permission's already been given, and I'm going to hold their hand, or I'm going to like just speak softly and say, keep going, you're doing well, you're here and now, right, you're not then and there. So just really emphasizing for them to keep it, that they're safe, right, and my voice helps ground them to know that they keep going in the medicine so it doesn't abruptly stop, because that can also happen, where someone is like, I don't like what I just saw, and they just want to pop out of it, and so their
Yeah.
brain overpowers, right, and it's a powerful thing, that brain of ours, but if they really are in a place of trust and feeling safe, again, that set and setting is so, so important so that they can actually get out of the medicine what they were hoping to have. Even if it's not what they wanted, it's what they needed.
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I think that brings us back to the important, again, point of the person who's holding space for you, like,
Hmm.
it being trauma informed and knowing how to hold that space. I just
Yeah.
had um, a friend of friend reach out to me because
Hmm.
they did a ceremony with someone, and they knew this person really well.
Hmm.
And she did the whole ceremony with them. The ceremony did not go well as
Hmm.
this friend's friend thought.
Hmm.
And this person that was holding space had at some point during the ceremony left the room. And
Oh.
this other person, like the person that was doing it, had
Hmm.
all this trauma come up about being abandoned and left alone and
Hmm.
all of that stuff,
Hmm.
which we know how
Yeah.
how important that is.
Yeah.
And then after the ceremony was done and she was left all traumatized,
Mm,
the space holder told her that she actually changed her mind about holding an integration session with her
oh,
because she just thinks that it's her fault that the ceremony didn't go well. And so this
mm,
person was left with all this open wounded, you know,
yeah.
trauma, and is now reaching out to people like me or trauma
Mm-hmm.
informed people to do integration about this
Mm,
session that,
mm-hmm.
probably traumatized her more
Mm-hmm.
than healed her. So
Yeah.
these things are definitely real, and
Mm-hmm.
looking for, yeah, to your point, asking, have you sat with this medicine yourself before? Or, how
Oh,
much experience do you
yeah.
have? Or are you trauma informed? I think that's a big
Mm-hmm.
one.
Huge questions. Yeah, really important questions. I would definitely give that to anybody that is seeking it, the kind of list of make sure you're asking these questions, right? As these are all so important. And the person who's sitting, if they can't provide you the integration or the trauma part, like the integration, which I call the therapy afterwards, the psychotherapy afterwards, then knowing that that sitter has a contact for you, so you immediately can go to them. However, I also would say sometimes it's even best to have two sitters, right? So that if you're sitting, and you do need to go to the bathroom or you do need to go, that the other person can step in for you, right? And be there so that the person's never alone. That's just something that, again, that we've been taught to do, learning how to serve medicine and how to, like, so not just serve the medicine, but to hold space and then to integrate it afterwards. Like there's a process for the person who is offering their service. And I really do say it like that because this is us offering our service. The medicine's the part doing the work. I'm not,
Mhm.
I'm not doing
Exactly.
work. Like
Yeah.
I'm not doing the work. The medicine's doing the work. I'm just offering my service of sitting with you, of being a trauma informed therapist. So afterwards we can then integrate the work. And I'm also not ever going to interpret for you what you experienced. You will
Yes.
know. I am going to only ask questions that might help you go further into it or get more curious about, right? So I just stay the curious, compassionate space holder, and you're the seeker doing all of it, right? And I think that's what gets me
Yes.
really excited about this because it's not a step by step, CBT, DBT, ARC, whatever kind of program modules, type of programming or modality. It's a completely different method to do the healing work. It's not the same at all as any of those other kinds of Western medicine or Western modalities.
Yes.
Sorry, not medicine, Western modalities.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I guess it's kind of like we're dealing with this kind of extensive spectrum between the clinical work and just
Mm-hmm.
the risk of taking this medicine and removing the cultural part of it,
Mm-hmm.
treating it instead of ceremony as a chemical process, um,
Yeah.
risk of reducing the sacred plants to tools,
Mm-hmm.
and risk of not honoring the lineage and the
Mm-hmm.
relationship and the integration over
Mm-hmm.
quick fixes. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I also see in the ceremonial space that there are people who go really deep into that role of being a shaman or
Mm.
holding space and not having enough knowledge of what
Yeah.
they're doing.
That's
So
true.
there's so
That's true. Mm-hmm.
I think there is a really important in between where you have the tools
Mm-hmm.
and you're honoring the trauma informed and you're honoring how you're holding the ceremony, and
Mm-hmm.
also what the spirit of the medicine.
Those two combined are like a must. They really
Mhm.
are a must. You can't like eat because you can do more, as this unfortunate person that you spoke of has experienced. You can actually do more damage as the human got involved, the human did more damage, right? Not so much the medicine. It was the medicine was doing what it needed to do and it showed up. And so hopefully the person in that particular case, the person that had this unfortunate experience, but not a bad trip, right? So again, noticing the difference of
Yeah.
language is that it wasn't a bad trip. What was unfortunate about it was that the guide, which would be a leader, so she was probably traumatized as a young person herself, and therefore her leaders were not responsible. Her leaders were not there for her. Her leaders did not help her, and therefore she got traumatized as a young person. She brings that now into this space, hoping that this
Mm.
person guiding her, leading her with more knowledge than her is what she's looking for, and then vanishes, right? So
Yeah.
she's unfortunately learning that asking those questions, right? That as her adult self now is showing up in the space of this world, that the adult part needs to start asking those very important questions instead of leading from this child like you have all the answers, you're the powerful one, you just do it for me, right? Because
Hmm.
that's not it.
No.
Right. And now we do have like, people that do this properly, that can guide properly, that can hold space properly, and then provide the therapy afterwards in a very ethical way. Definitely, definitely, we got you. But you've got to ask the questions. So again, that was when we talk about doing the prep work, right? Prepping someone for this medicine also is important. Asking them those questions. What do you think my role is? And then sharing if they don't land on it, right? Sharing what your role actually is, right? And where am I going to be for the entire time that you're under medicine, right? How are you going to access me afterwards? What is that going to look like? The whole thing. It's like a picture book that you're kind of going through when you're prepping someone, right? You're like, this, and then this is this. And you go slow. I always say that it's a red flag if someone comes running into your office. I need to do this now. I want it done in a week, yada yada. Like that for me is a red flag. And it's a red flag because you're rushing something that doesn't need to be rushed. I
Yes. I
I
mean,
don't think it needs to be rushed. I know it doesn't need to be rushed, actually. I don't think it does.
yeah.
I know it doesn't need to be rushed. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Slowing
I
down.
just slow it down. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Healing happens slow.
Yeah. No, I do acknowledge that they're excited. So I do want to say, like, I'm really excited you're ready. I'm really excited you're here seeking. That's
Hmm.
fabulous. What you need to know. And I think that is our responsibility as the therapist, as any therapist in any modality, anyway, regardless, has to find the pace because they're hungry for answers. They're hungry to get this fixed, as I'm going to say that word, fixed, right? They're not
Right.
thinking healing, right? I just
Hmm.
want to fix whatever the problem is. And so that's even a language of changing that for them to say, we're not fixing you. You're not broken. You're not a car, but you got some deep wounds that need to be healed. And that takes time, right? Because if you keep scratching it, it's going to break open again, right? It's going to bleed again. So we need to really let you heal. And so that takes time. So
Yes.
yeah, so I'm hoping that your person will see it as a lesson learned, not just a bad trip. And what can she
Hmm.
take away from that in her next steps, or as you're integrating with her, bringing that to her?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
Hmm.
and so going slow, I think that's one of
Hmm.
the main principles of trauma informed work. As my
Hmm.
teacher Dan Siegel says, it's like little bit at a time, just little when we meet a little bit and then go back and then
Yeah.
meet a little bit and go back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how we do the work. And I love to emphasize on what you just said. It's like you're not broken to fix yourself. You're just
Mm-hmm.
here to remember who you really are because all of these
Yeah.
things probably happened and you started creating layer after the red layer to
Hmm.
protect yourself, or parts of you started creating layers to protect yourself.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
now as an adult self who wants to expand, I love to call it expansion, we're
Oh yeah.
expanding.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you're just taking the layers off and you can't do it in one
Hmm.
day. It's
That's
going to
true.
take.
Yeah. Yeah, I think expanding or even awakening, like when you
Mm,
go into medicine, there's no way anyone that's actually experienced this medicine can come out without some change. Like your consciousness literally changes because you see things differently. Like for myself, and I think it was I'm going to say a compliment because that's exactly how I received it. But for a friend of mine, to have witnessed me since I was in my 20s, and then when I was 45, say to my now husband, like in the years I started using and doing medicine work, the transformation he saw in me was like, he's like, she's just different. There's an essence about her now. There's a presence about her now that just feels so much more, not just grounded. Is what he said was, uh, how did he word it? Is like grounded, um, calm. Sorry, that
mm,
was the word he used. She's just much more calm,
mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
I would not disagree with that. Looking back to my 20s, like as a bit of a firecracker, a bit of go, 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 go. And definitely that was the other thing that I've taken from this medicine was just learning, I guess that slow is the word I would go with, is like slowing down, right? Really just being more present. And by being present with others, then I was like, that also applies to being present with myself, right? And giving myself that time. And the gift it gave me at that moment was like, oh, yeah, right? Stop doing for others and start
Mhm.
really being present with self.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, like so many light bulbs in those moments with the medicine.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's such a great point, and that reminds me the most incredible healings that have happened for me is in those moments where I catch myself maybe the way I was before and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't have the anxiety that usually comes up in this situation come up anymore."
Mhm.
Or,
Yeah.
"Wow, I took my time and I responded in a different way." And it's these
Hmm.
moments where it's like it starts organically happening, and it was such a gift to wake up to that and be like, "Oh my god, I don't have to do and fix, fix, fix." Like, it's not
Yeah.
something there's nothing to fix. There's nothing like, it's
Yeah.
an illusion that we have,
Hmm. Hmm.
and a lot of us can get stuck in that loop of, "I need to heal," or "I need to fix this," or "I need
Yeah.
to fix my husband. If he would
Mm-hmm.
only do this and this and that, everything else would be fine," you know? Like, I get a
Yeah.
lot of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's like when something shifts in you and these medicines are so powerful and they're so
Hmm.
knowledgeable and they enter the area of the heart
Hmm.
and they take the layers off so that we can see again in a clear way. It's very
Hmm.
effortless. It's very
It really
effortless.
is. Hmm.
It
Hmm.
does take time, and going slow is key, and doing
Hmm.
integration is key, but it's very effortless. The true healing and the true remembering happens because we're
Mm.
returning to our natural selves. Like
Yes.
we didn't come here to like uh
Be angry.
be angry or have anxiety or like be
Yeah.
depressed. We didn't come here
Ah,
to be like that. We came here to
that's right.
experience joy and learn
Hmm.
something new about ourselves and find
Hmm.
out and remember who we truly are. Like that's what we
Yeah.
came here to do. And so um that doesn't come with effort.
No. And I wanted to, when you were saying all that, the other word I was having in my mind that just kept popping up was the word light, like to be in our light. And I always, I don't know, thinking of it in the way like, the baby comes from in darkness and into the light. So literally,
Mhm.
we are here to be in our light, and to walk in that light. But what will happen and ultimately does and has for eons, right, is the world, the environment you're in,
Mhm.
starts to lay down shadows, right? It starts to give you other things to start to ruminate about or to try to change into, in order, as Dr. Gabor Mate would say, in order for attachment. Because ultimately, as babies, that's our number one in order to survive. So then we have this little light being that wants nothing but their joy and their love, to be accepted completely as they are born. But then, like, because of the environment and those individuals trying to raise this little being, their darkness ends up shadowing into this light, and that there starts that cycle. So sometimes, like, I'm really excited when my, younger individuals, like, the 25-year-old, again, because of our brain development, I am cautious about age still when working with the medicine. And obviously there's for me, and I know you do because I had to fill it out. So, but a thing about your mental health and any diagnoses you have and any medication, psychotropic medication you're on, which is very important, right? Because you need to know with the SSRIs what's happening in the body, because it will unfortunately impede the psilocybin's uh, impact, is what the word I'm going to
Yeah.
use. I was going to say dumb it down, but but it'll impact it. And so that, again, pre-screening, those are important questions to ask, right? And I
Mhm.
say that because, again, that age bracket of, you're not quite fully brain developed at 25, so being careful, right? And watching your audience who might desperately need it even at a younger age, but technically, is that doing harm or is that okay? And
Mhm.
that's something I think that still worth researching, actually, to be honest. I think that is something that'd
Yeah.
be really worth researching, because I mean, these same individuals are being prescribed psychotropic meds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even I've even seen kids under 18 prescribed medication that should be for an adult. Like, Wellbutrin should not be given to kids under 18. And I've seen it.
Right. Wow.
So, like, I'm like, well, how is it then that the psychiatrist can be doing harm? Because it does,
Yeah.
right? And yet, as natural fungi in the forest, so, and I know that there's a training actually through Therasol about women who are pregnant using medicine, right? And
Mm.
so I'm thinking, well, okay, so if that's something that's possible, like, where are those boundaries? Yeah, and so that is still something that I am curious about in this field, because it's
Mm.
something I haven't done a lot of research in regarding ages. I just mean, ethically, I would never serve it for anyone under 18, period.
Right.
That's
Right.
not, I don't think that's a wise choice, but I don't have any research to back me up to say
Right.
why. I just feel it in my heart space.
Yeah.
so, so I just feel I'm going to stay there. I'm like, nothing under 18. So, yeah,
Yes.
but
That,
yeah,
yeah, that makes so much sense. And
yeah.
so to what you were saying,
Mm.
kind of wrapping up our conversation, I was just wondering if you could just touch base also on integration. So what are, in
Mm.
your words,
Mhm.
like how important is integration after the medicine ceremony? What
Oh.
are some things that come to your mind that
Mhm.
are a must, experiences
Yeah,
or must to dos like after?
yeah. So immediately after the ceremony, I often like to have the individual do something more playful. That's often something that's really missing in their life. So something that calls them, that's playful, that they feel, drawn into. So it might be that they're used to like to color, or they used to like to paint, or they like to play music. So things like that. Journaling is okay. Um, if they believe that they're going to kind of lose thought, but I don't want them journaling about the ceremony. I would want them to actually be like more like doodling journaling. Um, so, because I don't want them to jump into their logic mind right away. I want them to kind of
Mm,
stay with medicine even right after the ceremony. But I would say, and I do this in my practice, is that would be Friday, so by Monday. So I'm giving them about a 2-day window to sort of allow them to kind of come into themselves again, do any of their own reflection, and then I follow up within, I guess it's 48 hours. Yeah, within 48 hours to say, we're going to have an integration session. It's an hour and a half, and we go. They can tell me what they learned, what they saw. They can give me any of their reflections in the last 48 hours. I always start it with a mindfulness too, by the way. So I sort of let them kind of find their grounding before we start that integration so they can kind of come back into medicine. Because, like I said before, it's still in them, it's still active. So it might just be a
Mhm.
matter of returning to an image that really helps them return to the session from 48 hours before, that then the integration session becomes that much more rich with what we want to talk about and really what they took away from that. So that one after the 48-hour period that we do is to get them to say, like, is there one specific thing or three, like maximum three, to really like get them to focus in on, and then from there discussing which one they really want to start with. And it might integrate into like two at the same time because they might be related, but they didn't know it at the time, right? So again, we don't
Right.
really know what it's all showing up, and their interpretation of that is definitely theirs. Mine is only to know their history, right? So I'm their history keeper, and so in keeping that history of them, it might trigger me to ask a question, but not to say, is like, oh, this must be it, but to go,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just wondering about that time you told me about this. Is there, like, what do you think about that? Does that
Yeah.
get you curious? And so then they can also really bring that into their essence and go, oh, I never thought of that, right? And it's not to change their perspective, it's just to give them something more rich to think about and to try to get them to go deep.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Blind
Hmm.
spots.
Yes, exactly. That's a good word. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful. That's so
Yeah. But that's
enriching.
only one. And I wowould say at least minimum six,
Mm.
like a good six solid integrations for sure. And again, spaced out, like that's not like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm six right away. It's like over
Yeah.
time. Yeah. But yeah, I would believe that that is still very, very important. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I see most of the transformation as was saying happening in the and aha moments coming in weeks to
Hmm.
come as the medicine
Absolutely.
continues to work.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
okay, so I want to be respectful of your time as well. So if there is one message that you could
Hmm.
gently whisper into the heart of every therapist or healer that is
Hmm.
curious about, earth medicine, or doing this or integrating this into their work, what would it be?
You have to try it to know it.
Okay. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, that's going to be what I would say. You have to try it to know it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
that's beautiful, and it speaks to what I usually talk to my clients about, which is, knowing something and your knowledge is just the 5% of your brain, and 95% is your subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind speaks through the body. And so
Hmm.
if you want to
Hmm.
know, you have to have experienced it in your body.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
why medicine work is so powerful. It's because it goes into the 95%. I literally sometimes
Yeah.
watch people just move somatically, like do all these types of movements, and that's so healing for them. And after
Yeah.
reporting how much release they had just with that. So I love that. Try it. You have to try it to know it.
Good.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time. So, yeah,
Whew, how about that?
just
It's so interesting.
yeah, so
Mhm.
interesting. Coming with reverence, coming
Yes.
slowly,
Yes.
letting
Yes.
yourself be changed before you offer this work to others. Because there's
Hmm.
a saying, I think, that
Hmm.
says, you can only take your clients up to the point where you have grown. where you have gone. And
Absolutely.
I see this over and over with my own, as I
Mhm.
expand and as I learn more and I experience more, the type of people that come to me or their needs also change. So
Yeah.
it's so, so important. And, you know, and I just want to add in there that never stopping to listen to the elements and the land, because the land holds the mystery, it holds the
Yeah.
knowledge of the ancestors. And that's
Mhm.
probably, maybe, you know, you're in Costa Rica and you're experiencing this medicine that maybe you've experienced so many times before, but it's a totally different feeling because this land is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
I've had experiences in my ceremonies where it was shown to me how powerful the land is in Canada. Because sometimes I get really upset about, you know, the development there and like
Oh yeah.
the land being taken away and the indigenous cultures and all that. And I had a
Yeah.
ceremony before going back to Canada, and I was like, I just don't want to go back. And I literally saw this indigenous elder in my ceremonies tell me, look, what you don't like
Yeah.
about Canada is what we don't like about Canada, but the land is
Yeah.
so magnificent and magical. Can you
Yes.
come back to this
Yes.
magic of this land? And I was like,
Yes.
oh my God, I never thought about it that way. And so
Hmm.
just returning back to the power of the elements. And I know in Ayurveda we
Yeah.
say this so many times. It's like the earth holds the power, the wind, the sky, the sun. And so there are all
Hmm.
sorts of secrets in these elements. And just going back to
Hmm.
you know, the power of the original medicines,
Yeah.
and listening to that, no matter how much training we have and how many certificates we have and how maybe chemical we look at these
Hmm.
medicines, the power
Hmm.
is held in the fundamental um,
Uh,
creation of our creation,
yeah.
because we are also made out of these great elements, and so is the
Hmm.
medicine. And so
Hmm.
there's something that happens spiritually when they interact, and
Hmm.
this knowledge comes to us. And so do you have any
I
other
I
things?
just want, yeah, I want to say one more thing now that my voice is completely back and I get to own it again, because that was I always find that very fascinating, that our body will start to do certain things when it has its moments, as I just did. And one of the other big messages that I had received in the last two ceremonies actually was to use my voice. And so then I just found it very interesting that, like, right there, my voice started to crack or waver, and I was like, "That was interesting," because it's actually, you know, one of these opportunities to have to speak about uh, my experiences with the medicine, but also as a person and as a journeyer. So both professionally and as a journeyer, and the gratitude that I have to that I've been able to do that, and I'm able to serve for others. So I just thought it was interesting that my voice kind of went for a few minutes. But in returning, I'm like, oh, this is what I need to say. So it was like giving me a pause. Like it was like making me wait.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was really interesting. Just then, I was like,
Wow. I
okay,
mean,
I'm hearing you. It's like you need to stop talking so I can say this. So I was like, okay. So,
right? I
yeah,
mean, it's so, once you are tapped into that, there
yeah,
are so many messages and
yeah.
so much
Yeah.
guidance that comes through.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really listening to that and getting curious about what just was happening in our bodies to then, bring it to light. And again, that's just it, walking into that light and speaking that truth. So,
Mhm.
mm,
Yes, walking
yes,
into the light. I love that. The baby
yeah,
comes out of darkness into the light. I'm never going to forget that. That's so true.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Um,
but I just want to send my gratitude to you for this opportunity and for bringing me forward in the space that you have created. And I look forward to hearing it through my ears, but just to continue to follow your podcast as well. It's been lovely listening.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amelia. It's been such a
You're
pleasure
welcome.
having you. And as just a closing and a prayer, I just want to
Mhm.
say, let us allow the earth to guide us home and not make this medicine a trend. It's not a trend, it's a
Mm,
return. It's a
mhm,
return of coming back home. And the
mhm,
more we slow down, the more we remember that true healing is not a method, it's a movement of love.
mhm,
And yeah, thank you so much. And it was an honor to have you. Thanks everyone for listening. And if this conversation has stirred something in you and you would like to take your time with it, go ahead. I'm going to leave Amelia's information right below this podcast so you can contact her. She is a wonderful, wonderful therapist, as I was saying, and you are in good hands. And just allow yourself to go outside today, light a candle, write a prayer, and gently breathe with nature. Thank you so much,
mhm.
everyone. Bye, Amelia.